Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Please Tag Me. My name is Austin.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is Please Tag Me. Yay! Oh my God, we made it back for episode 3.
Ooh,
Oh my
3.
gosh.
Wow.
3 already.
Love that for us.
We have a 3-year-old.
Oh, that's not... Where did that come from?
Wait, that's not right. I don't know. Our collective baby is 3 episodes in.
We have
Yep.
a 3-episode-old.
Yeah. Okay.
I kind of want to get straight to it.
Okay.
I want to talk about something really cool that just happened 24 hours ago, or was it 48 hours ago?
No, it was last night. It was
All
like
right.
24 hours ago. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you say it.
Take it away.
I found out yesterday that I'm going to have a photo on a billboard for the first time.
Yay! Look at Michelle, she's so happy.
Yeah, my mom is here.
Yeah,
right now.
Amanda's
My
mom
mom's
is in the
town.
room. We don't have a camera on her, but you know what? I might take a picture here in a second and I'll just slap that.
But yeah, last night I got an email. She got looped in randomly and it was like, hey, looping in Amanda for specs and sizing. This is the photo the band wants to go with for the Nashville Spotify billboard. And I was like, hello? I was like, okay, cool. And so I emailed their manager back and I was like, what is happening? And he was like, we literally just found out about this. Like, it should go up around the time of like the album release. It'll be up for a week in Nashville. So yeah, my photo is gonna be on a billboard in Nashville. For
do you want
That's
to
so
tell everyone
exciting.
that's listening like what you're gonna do? Like,
I haven't fully decided if I'm going to or yet, but I might, depending on timing. I go back to Florida tomorrow for a week, and then I come back to New York for like a week and a half, and then I go back to Florida for a week, and then I come back to New York for like 3 days, and then I leave on tour. But if somewhere in there, while it's up in Nashville, I might try and fly to Nashville for a day.
I think you should.
I think you should.
I think she should make a whole. We were telling her in the group text, like,
She
you need to
needs to
just
vlog
go
it.
make a whole video of journey
We'll
of just
see.
you getting on that plane, going to see your billboard, get a little snack,
We'll see.
come
Yeah.
right back. What a like.
I know. I want to. I need to see if like timing and flight, because like I still don't have the specific details of
understand.
when it's up, and I'm in that like pre-tour mode of like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my days in the city before I leave again for 3 months are numbered.
Yeah. Wait. When do you get?
Yeah.
It's January. Okay. So.
Technically, I think like the 22nd or 23rd
Oh
of
my
February.
gosh. Oh,
But
okay. Okay.
But I no,
forgot about
yeah,
that.
of February. But I again, I leave tomorrow for a week in Florida back. So it's a lot of back and forth. But yeah, we'll see. I might throw 24 hours in Nashville in there somewhere in the mix so I can
I think
see
you
it.
should.
Yeah. I think,
Austin
and
really
we're gonna
regrets-
we're gonna throw in the picture right now if you're watching. That's gonna be on the billboard. Just so you can see it. Oh, what were you about to say?
Well, Austin had a Spotify billboard and he didn't, or Spotify something in Times Square, and he didn't go and see it, and that was a
That's
regret
right.
of his. So
My
don't be like him.
God.
That's true.
I forgot about that. Flew to Austin to go
Yeah.
to a Halloween party. Your Halloween party
Look,
instead.
I was still living in Austin, and it was my birthday weekend, and he
So
chose
fair.
me over the billboard, which
I did.
was the right move. But it
So
was still
fair.
sad.
What's interesting about my Spotify, because it was like on like the Times Square billboard or
Yeah.
whatever. That was a picture that I took in Dublin, Ireland, and it was like the
was
first
it?
show of our Europe tour for OKO.
Okay.
It was for AJR. We were just taking pictures backstage
Mm-hmm.
because we were like, oh, we should get some more portraits. I took a few, and then I get an email from their manager. Hey, Austin, we just need a few portraits. We're just looking at a few things, blah, 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 blah. He didn't even tell me what it was going to be for. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, I get an email back with like 10 people on it. Hey, can you go in and take out some logos? Everything needs to be plain. Can you get us this spec or whatever?
Crazy.
Yeah, that's fine. I send it back, and then literally like the day before, okay, cool, it's gonna be up on Times Square tomorrow if you want to go see it. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, oh my God. But I think one of the HR fans actually went and took a picture of it,
Yeah.
and then tagged
So
me on it. And
sick,
so I
yeah.
got to
See it
I
that way,
saved that
yeah.
picture and
Yeah.
then got to like look at it from an iPhone. But it was still kind of a cool thing. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of want to segue back into how you like created the treatment for Flip Turn and like how you presented it. Did you just make like a glorified PowerPoint, or how did you
So the first shoot that I did with them, that's exactly what I did. I got on like Google Slides and just made a very pretty document that I got on a call with the band and management, and we went through the whole thing. And I was kind of like, okay, here's some, shots that inspire me. Here's what I'm thinking for clothes. Here's what I'm thinking for, the finished color palette. Here's a studio space that we need to rent, like kind of the whole 9 yards. And this one was a little bit different. The way this one worked was they work with a very talented visual artist, Michael Amell, who does all of their cover artwork. And so she had already started working on like a painting for the cover and for the for like the single art. And so when their manager reached out to me about doing this, he just looped me in with Micah, and the two of us started going back and forth. She showed me what she had already done. She sent me her Pinterest board of her inspiration, and then I kind of built off of that. So I made my own kind of Pinterest board inspiration based off of hers and what she had already done. And then from there, I just kind of sent that Pinterest board to the band, and we talked about, do we want to rent a studio space? Do we want to do something outside? We landed on outside. We found this park in Jacksonville. And so once we had decided, okay, we're going to go outside, it's going to be midday, it's going to be hot, muggy Florida. Once I knew that, and I had the art that Micah had, I built my vision board from kind of knowing that. And I just pulled things from, I pulled different album art that I liked the colors of. I pulled different shots that I liked the composition of. I pulled different photos that I liked the outfits they were wearing, like just all sorts of different components to make kind of what I was seeing in my head. And then I was just in a group chat with the band. This was also pretty quick. Like, we confirmed that I was doing this shoot, I think, a couple weeks before I flew down to Florida to do it.
Yeah, you just
so it was not as much time as I had the first time around to make this whole, PowerPoint presentation. So this was kind of just, I sent my Pinterest board to the group chat, and I was like, here's what I'm thinking. And they were like, cool, looks good. And then I flew to Florida and got coffee, and then we went to the park. They brought a bunch of outfits with them, and we just kind of had them in the car. And we just wandered around this park and got all sweaty and took photos.
Yeah. How big was your team? Like, did you have hair and makeup, or was it literally just you and the band and you all just went for it? Yeah.
It was me and the band. Every shoot,
I love that.
Every shoot that I've ever
Skeleton crew
done is me and the artist. Whether it's like a more, intense thing, like or it's just random at a venue or on tour, wherever. It's always been just like me and whoever's in the photo. I think their manager showed up and for a little bit, and he was kind of just hype man. He was like, yeah, he was like, this looks sick. But other than that, yeah, it was us, and they wore their own clothes, and we didn't have any lights or anything. We just kind of used it was kind of overcast that day. I was like, great, natural light diffuser. But yeah, I'm very much, when I do any sort of portraits or anything, I kind of just use what I have and what I can, rather than like bring in a ton of stuff. Yeah.
I always used to be so intimidated seeing like, oh man, like one day I want to do an album campaign or treatment or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And I always just get so intimidated seeing like behind the scenes pictures and videos of like a team of 20 people doing, maybe it's like obviously music videos are different, but like a portrait shoot or whatever. Like I remember this was a couple years ago now this was for Casey Musgraves. She had a whole big old portrait shoot or whatever, like for her campaign for like the Deeper Well tour or whatever. And it was like 1 million people there. And like everyone was doing such an amazing job, but it was just so many people. And it was cool going from that to like, there was another shoot that we did where it was just only like 4 of us. And it seemed that everything was going so much faster. It wasn't like 20 chefs in the kitchen kind of thing. It was just like here's an idea, someone help me execute it, a couple people just help us make it possible or whatever. I've always found those kind of shoots, and it was the same thing with like AJR2, where we've done shoots with bigger people, whatever, but then we just minimize it and then just make it whatever. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You both have accomplished so much, and Amanda, like, this is so exciting. I'm so thrilled for you to just like go back in time like several years, what like inspired you to even start this journey of photography and this creative endeavor so that now you have a billboard?
Yeah, crazy. I feel like I maybe touched on it a little bit in the first episode, but when I first started picking up a camera, is actually my mom who's here. She like always took photos around when I was growing up, and so I would steal her camera. But she always took photos because my grandpa was a photographer. And so she grew up with him taking photos, and then she always did it as a hobby. And so when I was like 11, 12, 13, and we would go on a vacation to the beach, I was like, ooh, sunset. And then for a long time, I just did landscape. I was literally like, my dad would take me to the park, and I would be like, bird,
I love that.
squirrel, and like, here's a leaf that fell. It was very that until my stepbrother asked me to like take photos of his band. And I was like, oh, bands are way more fun than squirrels and birds and leaves. So I switched it up a little bit. And but it was mostly, just kind of growing up and hearing all these stories of like my grandpa being this like really cool guy who like took photos. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's neat. So I think mostly him, and just like kind of growing up around that space. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Austin?
About
What inspired you to start like photo, video, like this whole like creative life we have?
it was two things. It was playing old school RuneScape, or I guess back then it was just RuneScape. It was playing RuneScape, which is this massive, online MMOR computer game.
What's MMOR?
MMORPG. It's basically like a sandbox game, like a Minecraft, where it's just a character you're in, or like a Grand Theft Auto where you're in the game and you're kind of kept in that region of the game, and it's like a free, you just go in and you live in that world.
Like Animal Crossing.
Yeah, a little bit like Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
that I understand.
Yeah, but it's online and you can play with other players or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, Austin, you got to explain these things like we're 5.
I know.
don't know.
But and this is like, honest to God, this is the truth. I found that game when I was like 10 or 11. And back then, when YouTube had just come out, it was like 2006, 2007. YouTube was this playground of just insanely creative videos. It's not like today where it's just reaction, and clickbait. People were just making really simple videos, or they're trying to make like the most like all like the original like okay go music videos that you can think of or whatever. Like Charlie the Unicorn, like those kinds of videos were so like people trying to make their own shows. Like they're like, oh, this is what YouTube is for.
You just pulled the Charlie the Unicorn like out of the depths of my memory.
Yeah, but that's what I grew up with, and RuneScape was so embedded in that. And like people were making RuneScape music videos with their characters, and I thought, wow, that's so cool.
I remember that with my Sims, not my Sims characters, but Sims in general.
And I downloaded like the unregistered Hypercam 2 like software to be able to screen record, and I was ripping music from like LimeWire to be able to like make these stupid RuneScape music videos, and that gave me a like, wow, I think this is like, I really like
something.
Yeah, I think I really like doing this, because I always really liked performing skits with my sister in front of my parents, and so I was always a really theatrical kid, and so I grew up with that love of storytelling. And then RuneScape kind of just took that and then gave me a few extra steps. And then in that same year, the movie Little Miss Sunshine came out. I won't get into like how that movie was made, because the story of even how that movie was made was insane. But this movie came out, and I highly recommend anyone who's listening to go watch that movie. It's my number one all-time favorite movie. It's the best coming of age movie I think you'll ever watch. When I watched that movie, that's when everything cemented. I need to do whatever this is. I want to make something that makes people feel sad and happy and inspired and angry and emotional. I want to get that out of people, because I knew I could do that by just being a goofball and like performing and doing these skits. And then I wanted to be able to take that and like put it on screen in a way. And so those two things, wrap them up together, and then you fast forward, whatever, like 6 or 7 years, and I got my first camera. And then that's when I really started to, I don't even know what the word is, but yeah.
How did you go from RuneScape and Little Miss Sunshine to music?
That's when I was 19. and I talked a little bit about this in the first episode, but I had found that music festival in Houston, and I was there shooting that local band, Blushes, and I was like, oh, now this is everything that I've learned by myself, everything that I've self-taught by myself. Now I want to take that and hone it in and make music documentaries. And then also watching the movie Almost Famous was just a massive, kick of inspiration too. Because I was like, oh my God, that's who I want to be. I want to be the kid in Almost Famous. I want to go out and be the fucking guy that's making these bands look cool. And I literally want to be a music documentarian and make these videos, which back then in 2014, it's not, people weren't making videos back then. People were just still taking pictures, but I was like, oh my God, this is it. I found it.
I had the same reaction to that movie. The first time I saw it, it was probably 16. And I was like, oh.
I haven't seen it.
Cool. So now I know what we're doing today.
Wow.
We're going to wrap this up right now.
Okay,
We're going to go watch Almost Famous.
Wow.
Yeah. For what inspired me to start doing photo, I grew up in Hong Kong. One thing about growing up in Hong Kong, especially as an expat, modeling and
an ex what?
An expat.
An expat?
I don't know what.
It's okay. It's basically a foreigner living in China. So British,
wow.
Australian, American, all these other places living in China.
Michelle, did you know that?
I did not know that.
She's not
Fun
mic'd up, so
fact.
she said, I did not know that.
Yeah. Get her a mic. Do we
Get
have
her
an
a mic.
extra
Get her a camera for crying out loud.
But modeling was a big thing. I think I should know how to talk about this considering I lived there for 15 years, but I think that there's some form of, maybe it's not obsession, but when you're British or Australian or insert other non-Chinese area here, I think seeing my friend had dreadlocks, seeing dreadlocks, or people who are blonde or super tall, that's really exciting. So there was a huge, in my school, I went to an international school, there was a huge just community of people wanting to do modeling as a profession at 15, 16 years old, because they're the ones who are getting casted. If you're
there's a market for it.
There's a market for it.
That is so
and
interesting. Go ahead.
yeah, so I grew up more in that world of oh my gosh, I literally used to do catwalks.
Wait,
Fun
that's
fact.
so cool.
Yeah, I used to walk in fashion shows and be a part of that world, and I got really into after I was wait, I'm far too uncomfortable to be the one everyone's staring at. I got really into more portraits and studio type photography because there was just such a market for that sort of photography. And when I moved to the US, I used that experience doing senior portraits, and then I expanded to events, and then I got really, really super burnt out on senior portraits and college events because that's just not what I'm passionate about, and it isn't what I started photography to do. I liked doing more conceptual art and portraits. And then over the pandemic, which is such a weird time to start in concert photography because there really was
There's no concerts.
Yeah.
But I started doing, I think we were all a little depressed, or a lot of depressed during the pandemic. And I am one of those people who was just going through it mentally. And I just started taking self-portraits again. And that helped me have an outlet for all the emotions that I was feeling that I didn't know what to do with. And I was living alone for a while of it, so it was my art was keeping me company kind of during the pandemic. And as soon as shows started happening again, because I had worked in music for 5 years leading up to the pandemic, I was this feels like a natural progression of combining my love of music with my love of photography. And so I just started bringing my camera to shows, and I was oh wait, this feeling is what I've been looking for. This isn't burning me out all of these other things I've been trying has been. And that's how I got started in that.
Love that.
But what would you guys say more in the touring field, just to make it go a little bit different of a path, like what has been your most impactful like touring experience, or have you had a moment on tours that like has kind of like rewired your brain chemistry or whatever that phrase is?
Yeah. I think for me, it's not just like one moment, but some of the people that I've like gotten to work with and the relationships that I have built from touring with people. I don't know, touring is such a unique job, and that you are living and you are working with your coworkers and you are with them 24/7
24/7
for months on end. And so the relationship that you build from that is really unlike any other. You see people at their best and you see them at their worst, and they also see you at your best and your worst. And so it's so special. And I mean, you become really close with people really fast, and I've made lifelong friends from touring. And I think outside of like even just the like, oh, like I'm friends with these people now, like
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I was doing a lot of that. What I'm really grateful for is I feel like I started doing that with this artist named Jade Bird when I worked with her for several years. I felt like when I was working with her, it was building her world, and it wasn't just, yes, I was a hired gun or whatever, but it became so much more than that. And then it was just, how can we create this whole, I don't want to say brand because that feels lame, but it's her vision and her world. And how can we give that? How can we present that and make it cool and amazing and special and intricate? And I feel like I was able to do that, at least the way I'm thinking about it. I was able to come in, become friends with them, and go, okay, how can we expand or whatever. You know what actually is, like, when I started working with the Lumineers, when I came on board, they were like, hey, like, we're going to start fresh. We want a whole new palette of videos, photos, or whatever. It wasn't like we don't know what we're doing, but we want a professional to come in
and a new perspective
and make us look great. Like, that's what every artist wants. And it was just me, and I came in there, and I was just like giving them so much. I hate to use the word content, but I was giving them so much content every single night. Like, here's 4 different videos that we can put out just on stories. Here's all these photos. Here, I'm making these photo collages. Here's something new every night. And then it got to a point where by the end of the year, like, working with them, I felt like their whole online presence kind of shifted. Fast forward several months, and like I went back and looked at their Instagram and everything, and everything looks so fluid and nicely put together. And I was like, oh, this is so, like, I love this so much. Like, I love that I was able to help build their world a little bit more. Anyway, I'm just trying to, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, whatever. I'm just trying to riff of kind of like what you're saying. And that's what we're hired to do, is we're hired to come in and present it and make everything look fucking awesome, right?
Yeah. And I think it also, I think for me, it feels different. Like, to me at least, there's a difference between coming in and doing things just for socials. There's a difference between that and then coming in and being able to have the relationship with the artist to where it feels like you are documenting and building for more than just the internet. Like, it feels like you are building something for like archival purposes.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're really documenting like what this tour is and, was. And it's not just, oh, like, I hope this one post gets a lot of likes. It's like, oh, I hope that, like, 10, 15 years from now, I can look back on the work that I made and like feel like I am back there. And I hope that fans that were at these shows, hope years from now they can come back to this photo that I have of them and they can feel like they were there, or they can watch the tour doc, or they can come back and look at this and feel like they're right back in it. Or the artist can look back at this and be like, wow, like, this is my life and my work, and it's like, it's captured and it's here in this, like, it's here.
Yeah. And I think what's crazy is, like, this job, this being a tour photographer, being a tour videographer, or whatever you want to call it, it really only just started. If you think about it, I mean, yeah, this has been around like since whatever, even like, the Beatles had a couple people following them around with cameras, but you had to be the Beatles to get that kind of like a person with a camera or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
talking about even a small artist, even artists themselves are doing it. This job of
The
recording-
documenting,
of
yeah.
documenting yourself and documenting your journey and almost selling yourself to the world as this is who I am, and hear all these videos and hear all these pictures of who I am as a person, and et cetera, et cetera. I really feel like we just started this. Imagine if you went back to the early 2000s, and what if the Beastie Boys had these tour doc videos of them becoming the Beastie Boys? You had Eminem, you had No Doubt. I'm just naming big Y2K bands. But
yeah.
think about that. Imagine the rise of Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
Imagine the rise. I'm sure Britney Spears obviously had, cameras falling around at that point, but you had to be kind of big to have that. Now it's anyone's game, right?
No, really, that is a really good point, because I think back to I love old Rolling Stones and I love 80s, 90s rock documentation. But I mean, you're right. I've never thought about that. And I think so much, I'm like, oh man, it would have been so cool to and almost famous, that era, Led Zeppelin, that whole thing. I'm like, oh, it would have been so cool. But you're so right that it's when they're in arenas that they're getting that, and you don't have that thorough documentation from the beginning.
Well, if you think about it, a lot of it is because of social media, and people can put that out now.
Totally.
Yeah.
And people can sell themselves where
Welcome to New York.
where in the past you kind of have to wait for a media outlet to be excited enough about you to document you. Where now you can be like, let me show you why you should be excited about me, and
Exactly.
let me
You
bring
have
you
to-
to my show so that you want to come.
Yeah.
Think about one of my favorite tours ever, Harry Styles' Love on Tour. It's one of my favorite tours ever, not because he necessarily did anything different or more phenomenal with his show that other people are doing, but the community that social media built up around his tour was electric.
Totally.
Yeah.
You went into that pit. Well, I didn't go into the pit. I couldn't afford it. But I looked into that pit, and they are all dancing together. These people that have never met because they were on TikTok and they saw that other people were doing that dance. And now there's 60 people in the pit doing a dance to this one part of the song. And Harry's like,
Okay.
they're selling my tour for me because of social media.
Because of the experience that you have going to it. No, that is a really, really good point. I genuinely had not thought, the reason things are documented sooner now is because there is a reason for people to there's somewhere to put it. It's not just there's somewhere to put it out and to show it to people.
Yeah, and what happens, there are some artists that became famous years after they put stuff out.
Chaperone.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Lizzo. Right?
So many people.
And imagine if those artists, they have everything documented, and all of a sudden, 5 or 6 years later, just, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be a viral video. Anything could happen to where you wake up one day and people care about you. And it's oh my God, what the hell? What just happened? And people are going back and wow, Chaperone is such a good example, because I'm going through reels on Instagram or whatever, and a video from her TikTok gets Chaperone daily update, whatever bullshit, gets shared, and it's got a couple thousand likes on it. And it was a video from 3 or 4 years ago, and she's promoting what's that song, Supernova Wine,
Red Wine Supernova.
Red Wine Supernova, whatever. And it's her promoting it, or Hot to Go.
Well, she vlogged that whole experience, so you go back.
So you go back
years.
and you're rediscovering oh
but
wow,
she put out most of those songs as singles before the full album came out. So she's individually marketing these songs before she even got popular. And now people can go back and be like, oh my gosh, that's the day she shot the album.
Yeah, they can see the whole experience. Chaperone's really cool. I mean, there's so much. I'm sure you guys have seen the one video too. I think it's Pink Pony Club, where she's there's a video of her playing it in a park.
There's a video of her playing it in the
cut to her
park.
playing it in front of a huge crowd. And stuff like that is just so cool to see, to actually see, and not just hear about oh man, yeah, this huge band, they used to be really small, and they they played this show forever ago, but to actually be able to see here's her playing the song in a park to 20 people, and now here's her with a massive crowd singing it back to her. It just to be able to actually see it and not just hear about it. You actually, I get chills every time I see one of those videos.
I'm gonna hit you with another one, and I know you guys have seen this because this went viral just a few weeks ago. the video of MGMT.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was Time to Pretend or Kids. It was one of those songs. Them playing in front of like 10, 15 people in that park.
Yeah.
And the whole thing of them being like, oh, we kind of just started this band as a joke. And we're just, you see how like you watch that video and they're having the time of their lives. They're just fucking around. And it's just like that what's so interesting about that band is they have these random resurges of just like, you know, when they put out that little Dark Age record, it was kind of weird, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I forget which song went super viral. I think it was literally Little Dark Age. And I think it was because of TikTok. And all of a sudden, they're back.
Yeah.
And I think you go on Spotify, I think that song has like 500 million streams. And then some more time goes by, and then that random video of them playing years ago going crazy. There's just like a computer and 2 synthesizers, and they're just losing their mind.
Jumping around.
Just jumping around, having fun. And it's just like, oh my God, this vintage. What is this? Oh my God, that's MGMT. Look how cool that is. And it becomes this new wave of like this documentation of bands and musicians. Go ahead.
Back to our questions that we got asked. I have a few more that I think would be really fun to answer.
Yeah.
Okay, the first question we have is advice on how to get your first photo pass to a show.
I definitely did not do the right thing starting out, and I don't know if I want to recommend this. I'm just going to say this. Please don't do it, okay? But I was a big fan. I mean, I still am a big fan of James Marcus Haney. And for those of you who don't know who that is, he created this amazing documentary called No Cameras Allowed that came out in 2010. I've seen it about 100 times. And that whole documentary is him dropping out of college and becoming the photographer for Mumford & Sons. He snuck into Bonnaroo and made a whole film about it. He snuck into ACL with like 12 other people and made a whole thing about it. It's all in the documentary where he's creating these fake passes. I didn't do any of that, but I was definitely inspired of just like, if I just show up and I act like I know what I'm doing, people will just let me do it.
Speaking from the production side, who used to work at like for these major festivals, you will get kicked out so quickly.
Nowadays
Don't do that.
It's a different landscape.
Yeah, it's a different landscape now. That was like 15 years ago, so don't pull that shit now. I was really lucky, and during South by Southwest, half of those shows are at a bar and you can kind of just walk in and no one's going to say anything to you. That's kind of what I did. I was chasing bands and just showing up with my camera. Hey, can I film your set? Cool. Awesome. Can I just show up and film it? Awesome. Here's a video. Take it. Use it. Don't use it. And if you use it, please tag me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's kind of where the name for the podcast came from, is like that mindset of like just kind of going and getting your name out there and like, hey, like, tag me, like, here, you could like take the photo.
You just take it. Just tag me. That's all you got to do.
But I think too, like you said, like I very similarly, like I would buy tickets to shows that I wanted to see. They were smaller, like 250, 300 cap rooms, and I would go early and I would just be like, hey, or I would like email the band or DM them on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and be like, hey, I have a ticket. I would love to come take photos. And again, like the landscape is a little bit different now, but I think the best way now currently is probably getting really involved in your local scene. Even I don't care how small you think it is. I don't care
either. Yep.
What side. I don't care if it's a bar, literally whatever, but like getting involved in your local scene and learning kind of the etiquette of how to conduct yourself at a show and how to shoot a show, and also just like learning how to use your camera in that setting, and I don't know, learning what to do in a show setting, I think is the best way to build that portfolio and also meet people. Like you never know where the bands from your hometown are going to go. You never know who they're going to open for, this, that, and the other. But once you have, like, you never know where anyone is going to go. And so, I don't know, I've said it a million times, but if you are active in your local scene and you support your local scene, like it will support you back. I think that is true in every scene.
For actually getting a photo pass, because I feel like I went through a very technical route once I decided I wanted to start doing this. So just like if you're thinking like specific steps on like how to get involved, I can only speak for, I started in Austin, Texas. There's several, I'm sure it's like this everywhere, but there are several venues. They're not going to have big bands. You probably won't know who they are, but that don't have photo policies. Go to those shows. Take the photos, bring your camera because you're allowed to. That's going to be your beginner portfolio. then use that, find some publications, whether it's like online blogs, online magazines, reach out to them, cold email them, DM them, be like, hey, I'd love to start contributing as a photographer. Do you need more contributors? Eventually, a publication or two will get back to you. I think I like contributed for 2 or 3 for a while. And then they usually have a request form where you can be like, hey, I see that X, Y, and Z is coming to this venue on this date. I would love for you to submit a photo pass for me to shoot for you. And they'll either be like, sorry, we actually had a photographer in a different market do that artist like 2 weeks ago, so we don't need those photos. Or they're going to be like, absolutely, I'll submit you. And then the actual process of getting the photo pass, like those like photographer inquiries go to the tour, and the tour will either approve or deny photo passes. So obviously, I think it depends on like the size of the artist, also the market you're in. But typically, if it's a bigger artist, let's say, just to continue on the Chapel Roan like tangent, if it's like someone like Chapel Roan, they're gonna accept like the bigger publications. But it really just depends. It's always worth inquiring. And then once you get the approval, you get the photo pass, you go, you shoot, you give it to the publication. That's like a really easy way to get your first photo passes, is to shoot for an online publication. Okay, so the next question we have is thoughts on Blackmagic versus Sony cameras. And I feel like this question was specifically designed for Austin.
Sure.
So go for it.
I'll take a stab at this. I use both Blackmagic and Sony. I mean, Sony mainly for photography, and obviously Blackmagic I'm using for video. And here's my thing is that I am so thankful that with my whole thing with Blackmagic is I have a partnership with them. Somebody asked me if I was interested in talking to them, and before you know it, I got one email to another email, and all of a sudden I'm talking with Blackmagic, and they came to a show, and it's one person in particular. I won't name him, and he was just like, hey man, like whatever gear you need, I'm gonna send it your way. Once that kind of got out of the gate, I never dreamed in a million years that a camera company would just help me out with gear. I took advantage of that, and I was just like, you got it. Like at the end of the day, like there are things that Sony could do better that this, or Canon could do better with that, and Panasonic and Blackmagic or whatever. I think at the end of the day, they're all just cameras. I've really grown to using Blackmagic for video. I feel like it's obviously so in sync with DaVinci Resolve because it's by the same company, and I feel like it's just two ecosystems talking to each other when it comes to the color grading and just the editing in general, because I'm using like the Blackmagic raw footage. Again, I don't know how interesting this could be for people listening, but I really like Blackmagic for video. And yeah, when it comes to photography, I think Sony is just unbelievable with the low light conditions. I like how small it is. I like how quickly I can kind of use it. But I'm also a fan of Canon. I like using everything. Okay, that's just
I'm a Canon girly.
Yeah,
so this question I have literally no comment on.
I like using everything.
I think it goes back to you care more about the work and the story than
I
the
care
gear.
so
and
much
I think
more
everyone
about
kind of does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Find gear that works for you.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever works for you, then you should use it.
I personally use Sony right now because it's lighter and I'm weak. Okay, our last question for this episode is a slightly different note, but they asked us what our go-to drink order is.
Moscow Mule or Mexican Mule.
I would say I'm such a spritz girl. Spritz girl summer forever. But I also love a margarita and a mule. What do you want?
I don't know. I don't fucking really do it. Probably a root beer. I love Canada Dry.
What alcoholic drink?
Alcoholic? Probably like a Fanta or.
What are you?
Austin, weird bit.
Sorry, weird bit. I like Sapporos.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big Sapporo guy.
I know a lot of people really like martinis. I tried one for the first time the other day. My best friend is a bartender, and so we were out, and she had one, and I was like, I'll try it. And she goes, do you like olives? And I was like, no. She goes, you're not going to like this. And I was like, I feel like I have to try it, though, because everyone gets it. It was terrible. I hated it.
Okay, but... Well, I was going to say, hear me out.
No. But I will not.
But I feel like what I was
Olives
gonna
are
say,
disgusting.
it depends on if you like olives. I like olives.
Olives are the
I'm in a
worst
very
thing. Olives are
unaccepting room right now.
God no.
Sorry.
Olives are like the second worst thing to ever be created in this world.
It tasted like I was at the beach and I accidentally opened my mouth when a wave came.
Oh, I hate. Oh God.
If you like olives, if you like olives, getting it extra dirty does make it good. But I'm speaking to the wrong people
that's
right
worse.
I
Yeah, go
can't
find your
imagine.
people somewhere else. Like, I know there's probably one person listening like,
now.
yeah, I do like my fucking dirty olive. Give me a fucking, look at Michelle. Michelle literally went. She literally fully did that.
Thank you. I was feeling really like alone.
That's
in
fucking
this.
awesome.
No. Anyways,
Yeah.
That was
Not
really
for
funny.
me.
Okay. I do like a martini sometimes, but if I'm choosing between a martini or like an Aperol spritz, a Hugo spritz, you're kidding me.
You've been on a spritz summer for like 3 years.
It's just part of my personality.
It's literally
now.
been 3 years.
Thanks, everyone.
I like root beer. God damn, I could do a McDonald's Coke. Like, what do you want me to say?
All of our bits are just falling flat today. Anyway, we're all gonna go have a crisis. I hope you enjoyed this
and
episode.
that's okay.
And that's all right. Thank you for listening. My name is Austin.
My name is Emily.
My name's Amanda.
And this has been Please Tag Me,
Episode 3.
episode 3.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.